Council in May 2008 to become the city's first appointed city auditor. He's a certified public accountant, CPA, certified internal auditor, CIA, certified government auditing professional, CGAP, and has a certificate in risk management assurance, CRMA. Remais has over 28 years of public, private, and governmental auditing experience. Remais was also elected to the Virginia Beach School Board in May 2006, where he served for 2 years prior to being reassigned to accept the city auditor position. Remais has been married to his wife Susan for 29 years, and they have 2 boys. Ryan is 25, Jaden is 23, and they reside in Courthouse Estates in Virginia Beach. He is a graduate of Old Dominion University, where he received a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration with a major in accounting. In 2013, the ODU Accounting Department honored Remais by awarding him a Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to the school and the accounting professions. Please have a big round of applause for Lyndon.
Yeah,
Thank you, Diane, for inviting me once again. I believe I've been out here at least 3 or 4 times. It's been a couple of years, and appreciate the fact that it's out here on Prince Anne Road. Just live down the street, so makes it convenient. But thanks for those of you coming out this evening, especially with the change in daylight savings. I know it's dark out here, but thank you for staying engaged within our city that each of you wouldn't be here if you didn't care about. Okay. All right. So Diana asked me if
Oh, that's what I forgot to say. If everybody could keep your questions to the end so we can get through the presentation, and then you can ask questions. If you forget what you're going to ask, please write them on your cards. See, I always forget everything I don't have written down.
Okay, so Diana asked me to speak on a couple of the festivals. You may have heard of a few of them. Something in the Water, Beachit. But since we also completed a couple of our review of some of the city facilities, I'm going to go ahead and cover the Sports Center. If you haven't seen the Sports Center, it's right across from the Convention Center, which we looked at, as well as the Sandler Center. So these are all 5 different audits we've done within the last 12 to 14 months. And I'm just going to cover some of the highlights. But briefly, for those of you that aren't familiar, just a real quick background regarding my position in my office. So as the city auditor, as Diana mentioned, I am appointed and work at the pleasure of the city council. Okay? So the mission of our office is to promote accountability and transparency in city operations. Okay? And part of that is not only doing our audits and issuing our audit reports, but also speaking to groups and organizations so that they're aware of what's happening within the city, what's happening with your taxpayers, and so forth. As the city auditor, I am directly appointed and work for the city council, so I don't work for the city manager. That gives my office and me that independence. Okay, so I have the independence of what's going to be audited, what's going to be on the audit plan, what's going to be in the audit report. Okay, I don't report to our city manager, I report directly to the city council. Okay? All right, so the first one we're going to cover is the something in the water. Okay, and I know, and I've heard residents and concerned citizens saying, why are we giving money for the festival? Or how much money are we giving? This year they did structure what was provided to both Something in the Water and Beachit, okay? So our review was of the sponsorship agreements for both of these festivals, okay? All right, so the way that it was structured, okay, the way that it was structured is that the council authorized a sponsorship, but the amount of the sponsorship was up to $2 million, and it was going to come out of the tip fund to cover as an initial sponsorship. We didn't give them $2 million. Okay, so there was some safeguards this year because if you've heard the term but for, you know, you've heard this term but for. So it's not, here's $2 million, you know, run a great festival. It's $2 million up to the taxes that you generate. So you generate $100,000, you can keep $100,000. You generate $1 million in taxes, you can keep $1 million in taxes. You generate $2 million in taxes, you can keep $2 million in taxes. If you go above $2 million, you're capped at $2 million. Okay? So in essence, they were authorized to keep the amount of taxes they generated up to $2 million. Okay? So that's what, when they say the term but for this event, those taxes would not have existed anyway. Okay, so since we're having the event, they're generating it as part of their financial incentive to generate and run a successful event, they were given the right to keep the taxes. Okay, so what did they actually generate? Okay, so they were authorizing, there was appropriated up to $2 million. The taxes they actually collected, and we verify this, you've got the admission taxes that they have to remit to the Commission of Revenue. So within every ticket they sell, there's a certain percentage of admission taxes. There's meals taxes and the local portion of the sales tax. And this is all within the footprint of their event, okay? And if you were down there, you watched the news, they blocked it off, so they did have a physical footprint. It wasn't every business at the oceanfront. It was a specified footprint. All right, so as I mentioned, because they only generated 970,000, I don't want to say only, I mean 970,000 is a lot. And remember, Sunday, there was inclement weather, there was ultimately a tornado, so Sunday was canceled. And Friday started late. So under the circumstances, they generated 970,000 based off of the sponsorship agreement. They remit it, and we give it back. Okay? So that is the protection that the council built in this year. And I believe last year we provided, may have been 250,000, but that was pretty much just a grant. Okay? So, we, as you know, from the audit shop, we reviewed the methodology and the related support for the city's accounting and compilation. All right, so the expenses was, for the event, was $970,000 that we allowed them to keep. There were 109, oops, there was, the in-kind services, the $739,000 in personnel costs, public safety, public works, our parks and rec, everybody that was at the oceanfront to help get the events up and running. And if you saw pictures, or if you were down there, I mean, it was a large event. Okay, so you've got personnel, and then you've got some operating costs, you know, the fencing, the trash cans, the cleanup, and so forth. So in regards to the total expenses to the city, 1.8 million. Okay? All right. So Something in the Water was not the only event that we had. We had a new, if you don't like the music that Pharrell brought in, we had the Beachit Festival, something for everyone. The Beachit Festival was the city's first country festival. It was a 3-day event, also put on by Live Nation, who put on Something in the Water. And the city did a very similar sponsorship as they did with Something in the Water. And this time it was 1.5 million, and this one made it even more simple. Okay, so there was no hotel tax or sales tax. It was basically 1.5 million of admission taxes. So the more tickets you sold, right, the more tickets you sold, the more likely you were, they were to reach their 1.5 million, okay? But it was easy to review and audit because it was just simple. All we had to do was how much admission taxes. So it was the financial sponsorship equal to the amount of admission taxes generated. So we didn't have to look at sales taxes. We didn't have to look at meal taxes. Strictly, what did you generate in admission taxes? Did you remit that to the Commission of Revenue? We'll validate it and basically rebate them back. Okay? And so their event, it was the first year, they generated $351,000 in admission taxes. They were allotted 1.5, so they got rebated back to $351,000. Okay, so nice and simple. So we didn't give them 1.5 million. We didn't give them 350. We allowed them to keep what they generated, and that's but for. We would not have had those admission taxes but for the Beachit event. All right? Okay, so what else did we spend on Beachit? All right, so besides the sponsorship money that we rebated back to $351,000, personnel, we called it in-kind services because we basically staffed the event, and those were the costs, and we didn't bill them for it. Okay, so personnel costs is $108,000, operating costs were $13,000, so the event total for Beachit in year one was $472,000. And even if you add the personnel and the operating, it still didn't reach the 1.5 million that was allotted. Okay. All right, so those are the two festivals, and I think going forward, because of the feedback of the citizens in regards to why are we just giving grant money, okay? So these two events, the structure of how the council said we were going to award the money was different. And I think it does, it's a win-win. There's some protection with the city, and it is a but-for tax. All right, so in total, we had appropriated, 2 million, and then the 1.5 million, and I think in total we had expenses of 2.1 million, okay, from the two festivals, and so basically the amount that was appropriated is freed back up and goes back to the tip fund. Okay, since they appropriated the 1.5, the 2, neither of the events hit it, so the money goes back to the tip fund to be used for other events. All right, okay. Now this is a timely one, and I'm going to let you know why. This one is very, very interesting. Brand new Virginia Beach Sports Center. This is another audit. Okay, everybody has seen it. It's down at the ocean front, right across from the convention center. opened in COVID a beautiful facility, one of its kind on the East Coast. Okay? Not only does it have the basketball, the basketball, the volleyball, but it does have the incline track, and they're actually hosting, or have hosted, the NCAA Division I, Division II track and field. Okay? And that's what, it's drawn. It's a beautiful facility. So what we did, we had it on our audit plan. We wanted to take a look at it because we knew it just opened up, and we wanted to ensure, before they really got into it, that things were up and running and things were going well, both operationally and financially. Anecdotally, if you talk to a lot of the stakeholders at the oceanfront, the restaurant owners, the hotel owners, all I heard was good news. During the shoulder season, it's packed, right? They're bringing in people, the heads in the beds, everybody's happy. The restaurants, the hotels, because everything's packed. So when we went to look at it, all right, so we had some initial concerns because their operating reserve, they withdrew for 22, they withdrew from the reserve. Okay, the reserve is kind of like your rainy day. And then they withdrew fiscal year 23, another $315,000. So from their reserve, they had, and I'm talking about the operators of the facility, they had drawn down all of their reserve. Okay, so that was definitely a red flag. They were, at the time, they had not submitted any of their required quarterly financial statements. And then as we were going into the audit, which is the second bullet, the operator requested $250,000 more from the city to address insufficient funds. Okay? So that's not a good thing. The fund balance, okay, so not only the reserves, they were seeking additional funds, but the fund balance of beginning fund balance of $400,000 dropped all the way to $29,000. So one of our first initial findings was, we got this beautiful brand new facility, just opened up, everybody's happy. If you drive by there, it's always packed. Cheerleaders, dance teams, track and field, basketball, volleyball. But the sustainability, the financial operations appear questionable. Okay, so what was happening? What was happening? So what we found was we hired a contractor, ESM, to run the sports center. But we also had our city folks, the Convention and Visitors Bureau of Sports Tourism. They were also booking events. Okay, so it's the old adage of too many cooks in the kitchen. So what was happening is, to be competitive and bring some of these big events, track and field, they had to discount the rate of the sports center. So if I'm a private contractor and I'm trying to make money, and the city's saying in order to bring these events here and be competitive, we've got to give 25% off, 50% off, 100% off, but we'll make it up on taxes because lodging, because of meal taxes, admission taxes, okay? Obviously, that wasn't working, right? Because they weren't making any money. And they're literally just 2 to 3 years in. Okay, so we questioned back then the sustainability of financial operations. And everybody said, how could that be? They're open, they're always packed. How could they not be making any money? Okay? As I said, when you have two different objectives, right? Beds and heads doesn't necessarily equate to making money for an operator. The hotels are happy, the restaurants are happy. Okay? All right. So we had some other red flags. Deficiency in the submission of the quarterly financial statements. Operations manager failing to meet expectations. Economic impact of sports events not accurately measured. Okay. Anybody see today's city council draft agenda? Okay, Rona, what jumped out at you that's on that agenda?
That it looks like the city is going to buy out the contract of ESM or pay them off or get rid of them because they're going to go away.
Exactly. So the operator that had a long-term contract to run the sports center that just opened, that's beautiful, that's brand new, and during the audit we questioned and said the financial operations, right, they don't look sustainable, turned out to be justifiable. So, and this is not, I don't want to say this isn't proprietary or confidential because there was an agenda. So as your FYI, Tuesday at the City Council, there's going to be a proposed buyout settlement, and the settlement to buy them out, $6.1 million.
What?
Okay? So, you heard it here first, it's on the agenda.
Wasn't it?
Okay?
Good God.
So Tuesday, it's an agenda item. Tuesday, it's an agenda item. So if you're interested and you want to speak out,
No, listen.
because see, you've got a brand new facility, what are you going to do? Somebody's going to have to run it. Okay, somebody's going to have to run it. This is a $60-70 million facility. Okay?
Which we didn't want in the first place.
So 3 years in, there is going to be a buyout of the contractor. It's going to be on the council agenda. And if you look at the bookmarked agenda, it'll have the detail in the ordinance detailing the amount of the buyout. All right, who's been to the Sandler Center? Okay, and what did they say? You cannot put a price on the yards, right? That's what. Yeah. So whenever they say that, whenever they say you can't put a price on the arts, then you know the arts isn't making any money.
Oh, they're ripping us off the tickets for summer.
All right, so so this is what it looks like, okay? And I've been there, beautiful facility, and I enjoy going to the shows there, okay? But me as a taxpayer, you as a taxpayer, we are augmenting the Sandler Center, if you didn't already know that, okay? So, we're saying, I mean, it's been going down, but we started off in 2016 about $1 million, so it has been going down. Let's see, $752,000 in city funding that we provide on top of the management and incentive fee of $80,000. So it's about $750,000, about $830,000 that we pay for the Sandler Center. And again, we look at, are they meeting the, are they meeting, some of the requirements, how much admission taxes they're generating. So if you look at the admission tax revenues amounted to $163,000 in fiscal year 22. 100, we're funding them about $830,000. If you do the math, the admission taxes is not covering what we put into it, okay? But, what do they say? You can't put a price on the audits. All right, so it is a beautiful amendment. All right, so we talked about the sports center. The other audit we completed of another facility right across the street from the sports center is the convention center. Okay, and convention business is competitive. Okay, and I'm not gonna deny that. Let me just put my phone in to make sure I'm on time. Just one time. You know, we're competing up and down the East Coast. We're competing nationally. We have the sports center that pulled some of the events out of the convention center. Some hotels have convention centers. Okay, so how did the convention center do? Okay, you think it broke even? Did it make money or did it lose money?
Lose money.
Lost every cent of
There
it.
was nothing there.
Okay, how much money are we augmenting, you think?
Debt service on the building.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even talking debt service. We're just talking revenues and expenses.
Oh, yeah, all right.
We talk debt service and we're really in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we're really in trouble, we are.
Okay, so as you can see, you know, just a number. This is just the number of activities, the revenues and expenses. So revenues. Let's see. The expenditures is in yellow, and the revenue is in gray.
Beach 21.
So expenditures have routinely exceeded revenues by more than $2 million per year, and there's been years where it's been $4 million. Okay. So this is another facility where there could be an argument, and I've heard the argument, that it's the lost leader. You know, you bring them here, and we'll make it back on the trustee taxes generated from the hotels, the meals, the admission taxes, and there is some truth to that. Okay, but what we were finding was it was hard to, just like at the sports center, we found that it was hard to measure the economic impact. So if you're going to be a loss leader, and to the tune of $2 million annually, we need to be able to truly measure how much in the respective trustee taxes for the convention center. And then we don't want to double count it for the sports center. And then we don't want to double count it for the only one can count it because it's different pools of revenues and expenses. Okay, so there's not a good method to truly measure the return on the investment. Okay, so that's what one of our findings is. You need to fine-tune your economic impact model to truly segregate what is the revenue related to the convention center. What is the revenue related to truly measure the return on the investment. If not, you know, we can't say we're making it up on the trustee taxes if they can't be measured.
Stephen, Linda, could you keep the mic, because people that are watching this online can't hear.
Okay.
And can also, they can't read any of these things because it's too fine. You'll have that available. It's on your website too,
Yeah.
all of these.
And I could even leave it.
Yeah, send me
I
the
can
link
send
and I
it-
can
yeah, I'll
attach
send
it.
the link and I'll send it out.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Okay, so, you know, and I'm not going to bore you to death with some of the other findings. You know, obviously, we looked at what their goals are, We had a finding on goals to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of operations weren't implemented. We had a finding regarding the monthly commissions reconciliation process. Okay. But the main thing is we try to get out of looking at this and the sports center, the Sandler Center, what type of, financial position they're in. Because the last thing you want to do is walk in and look at and, immediately, without doing a whole lot of work, say, the financial sustainability of your operations doesn't look sustainable, okay? And as I mentioned, it did turn out.
Sorry.
We were pretty much spot on that, okay? So, just a couple more things and I'll take some questions. Just wanted to say, sorry about this, let me just kind of pull up another document and show you. Okay. So this was, let's see, J, I don't.
J1.
J.
J1.
Here it is right there. Okay. So item J1, ordinance to appropriate fund balance of the tourism investment program and to authorize city manager to execute the settlement, transition, and termination agreement for the Virginia Beach Sports Center. Okay. So I just want to give you a heads up. This is on the agenda, so if you're interested, that's going to be Tuesday. Okay, and that settlement is around $6 million. Okay. So that is those are some of the, we started off with the something in the water and the Beachit. I think we're very, very positive, especially for meeting the various stakeholders' goals, right? We wanted to have a safe, friendly event on a weekend where we've had College Beach Week and we've had issues. So in regards to the festival, I think it was a success. The but-for taxes are minimal investment compared to, the goodwill that was generated, and we were protected by the form of the sponsorship. So I think the two festivals we can call a success. Some of our facilities, as I mentioned, not so much.
Ready for questions?
Yes.
Okay, what was the cost of admissions for something in the water? Wasn't that like $300 or something?
If you look at it, there was price points. You could have bought the 3-day package, the 2-day package, the one. It ranged anywhere from $300 to about $100, depending if you went to a 1-day, a 3-day, a VIP.
Okay.
The one good thing, every ticket, no matter what type of ticket, there's a related admission tax.
Right. And Beachit, you know how much that cost?
I would say the price points weren't as high, but depending on what you bought, it was anywhere from $200 to $100 for a it's probably more than that, but for a multi-day
Okay.
festival.
So how much did you say those two festivals cost taxpayers?
Okay, so the cost for the taxpayers for something in the water was 1.8 million, but 970 of that were the
Went back to them.
taxes that they generated went back to them.
So the $1 million and a little bit was paid by the tip fund?
Yes.
It was paid by the tip fund, it didn't come out of the taxpayers?
Yeah, out of the tip fund.
Okay. And how about Beachit?
And Beachit was strictly admission taxes, and that was $351,000. And then we had
Set up and
about $113,000 in operating.
And that also came out of the tip fund?
Yeah, out of the tip fund.
Okay. So who funded the sports center to begin with?
The sports center, I mean, ultimately, it's coming out of the tip fund, but who's putting the money in the tip fund? We are, we are.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, everybody is, you know, we do
Right.
have our tourists are putting in there, but we go out to eat, you know, we go to events.
We go to events, all of
We play
us.
golf and eat at restaurants.
Go bowling.
Yeah, so
Movies.
it's not strictly the VB residents. There is tourists, but VB residents do pay the tip fund. So it was paid out of the tip fund.
Okay.
Are
Uh,
any of these that
wait.
making any money?
If, we'll get to that, okay? So.
I think I answered that.
Are these events making any money? So there's what you call, what do they call it? Economic,
Economic impact?
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
so the
economic
thing where-
impact that we're somehow getting. Do we have any
Yeah, so-
estimate on that?
Yes, so the city did, and I have that report, I didn't go over it. What we looked at and what I'm interested as a taxpayer, and I think what you should be interested in as a taxpayer, not necessarily the economic impact, but the fiscal impact. The fiscal impact is the taxes that go back to the city.
Right, that's what we want to know. Is
Yeah.
any of this money going back to the
Yes,
city?
so from,
Not into the tip fund, into the city that's going to pay for the police officers and all the personnel and,
yes, so the taxes in regards to the admission, sales, and the local portion of the sales in the hotels, there's a portion that goes into general, then there's a portion that goes into tip. And I'm sure some of you are very familiar with the tip breakdown.
right?
But there is some of those taxes from sales tax. It doesn't all go to the tip fund, and I've got my little cheat sheet thing
Yeah.
over there. So some of that does go back to the taxpayers. Okay? As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I'll pull it out. You can ask me next.
Right, so we wanted to know.
Yeah, actually, I got it right here. So I can't
Okay.
give you the dollar amount. Okay, so going into the tip fund, the hotel taxes, all right, you've got of the meal tax, only 1.06 of the meal tax goes to the tip, 3.5 into the general. Hotel tax, 5% goes into tip, 2% into general.
And all of the
all the-
amusement tax goes to them.
All the amusement taxes go there.
So
Right.
they pay for the personnel,
Okay,
the police, the EMS, the cleanup.
Yeah. Cigarette taxes, okay, you guys are slacking. Okay,
Yeah,
cigarette
smoke
taxes
up.
are declining, so help your city out and pick the habit back up. 0.05 cents goes to the tip, 0.54 goes to the general fund. So the only thing that is 100% to the tip is admission.
Okay. Did you know or do anything on the audit from the guy that came, what was his name? He did the thing at city council on
Economic-
all the events?
Yeah, the only
The
thing.
economic impact?
Yeah, so that was an economic impact analysis. So whenever you have a consultant doing an economic impact, he's making an estimate.
I was wondering where he
Yeah.
got his numbers from.
He's using the city data, but he's projecting out an economic impact. So he's looking at direct, indirect, induced, and a lot of that is based on projections. So the only thing that we did, and we did sit down and meet with him, we looked at whether his formula and methodology was reasonable. Okay, we're not going to say that's not the right way to do it, because you ask any economic consultant, you ask 100 different consultants, and there's 100 different ways to do it. There isn't one right way to do it. So where we were involved is strictly looking at the methodology, and when we did look at the methodology, we did determine it was reasonable. Okay, it was reasonable.
Okay, so on to the sports center, right? Who funded the sports center to begin with? You said that came out of the TIP fund,
That's correct.
and we're still paying for that, and what was the cost on that?
Yeah,
How much
that
was
is
that
correct.
investment? I think it was like 58 million or
Yeah,
something?
it was about that, and
I think it's 68 million.
68 million?
It started out at 29 and went up from there.
there you go.
Okay.
That's your expert right there.
Yeah.
68 million, and they just got 5 million recently this last year. They added 5 million for storage facilities or additional.
So we don't know the total cost of it?
We're over 70 million.
Yeah, it's close to 70 million. And, you know, I do want to make it clear, it's, you know, we are ending the contract, or there's a proposal, ordinance to end the contract with the current contractor, not to shut the brand new facility down.
Okay, so who recommended EMS to manage the sports center?
That was done through an RFP.
Okay, don't they run the one that's over
We're in the field house.
the field house?
Yeah, so they run the field house, which is not a city operation, and, you know, I've had kids.
Yes, that's privately owned and they do well there.
Exactly.
But
It's
when you
private-
got somebody else's money, you're losing it.
Yeah, it's privately owned. They have been successful. I'm not sure if they've run a facility the size of the sports center, but to their credit, they've run successful facilities in Northern Virginia and here right around the corner from us.
Right, but they do that with their own money, and
Yeah.
so they do that very well, so the vetting
Yeah.
process told
Yeah,
us
so
all
the
that.
dilemma was when you have the city involved with a private entity, you have competing objectives.
So their problem with making money is our fault, the city's fault?
Partially, because as I mentioned, if you're trying to bring an event in and you're trying to maximize revenue, that's the model for a private operator. When the city's involved, that's not the objective. The objective is bring them in here, get them into the hotels, get them to the restaurants. We will make
We will make the taxpayers
We'll
pay
make
for
the-
everything else.
We will make it back based off of meal tax, admission taxes, lodging taxes. But then you're cutting into the potential revenue the operator can make because we're heavily discounting. And we're not making the operator whole. And that's what their argument was. I can't make money if you're not allowing me to totally control the schedule and what I charge, and if it's being discounted, you're not making me whole.
So who's doing that?
The City Convention Visitors Bureau of Sports Management.
Ah, okay, right. So the private construction or developer, could they have opened up a sports center on their own with their own financing, but the decision was made for us to do it? They wanted it to be city-owned.
If they felt there was
I mean,
a way
nobody,
to make revenue and profit,
somebody
see
would have
businesses
submitted a
popping
thing.
up all over the place. If they did it, you know, it's capitalism. If you can make a buck, you're going to open a hotel, a restaurant, sports center. Okay.
Okay, so how much longer do we have to, contract do we have on this sports center?
Well, we had a contract with the operator. It was pretty long term. I'm saying it was at least maybe 20 years, 10 years, 20 years.
20
But
years,
it's being terminated.
20 years, and to
Yeah,
buy them out.
somebody has to run it.
Right, yeah.
Somebody has to run it.
What loss are they?
So they didn't contribute anything to the construction or anything, so their only loss is not being able to.
Not necessarily to the construction, but they invested in the equipment,
They did.
furniture, fixed assets within the facility.
Do we have to pay them for that too?
Yes, so that's a component of that 6.7 million.
What
Okay.
percentage?
What's that?
What percentage?
Is there a percentage that you know?
No, I
The
don't-
percentage, no.
Like 50% is a 6.1 or 10? How much?
What
can the
percentage
assets
of
be
the
worth?
of the furniture?
Yeah.
I think that was at least, that may have been 2.4 million of the 6.1.
Yeah, but how?
Thank you.
What will we be paying them a year?
How much is their 20-year contract worth that we signed up for?
The contract, what we were paying them was a management,
Yeah, but it's 20 years and you had to put a cap on it, so what
Yeah.
was the contract
So,
cap?
so we're paying them a management fee of probably 150,000 to run it. So they make all the money on it, but they weren't making any money on it.
Yes, so they were getting paid, so they made money getting paid, we were getting
You're
screwed.
terminating a contract that you say 20 years, okay?
Yes,
You're gonna give them $6 million, where this gentleman's question is, you got $2 million of old furniture, and we're probably gonna give them at a premium just to get them the
Yeah.
hell out of here.
so what makes up the rest of that 6?
So the problem I have is you're terminating a contractor who failed, and then we are getting expense. So the buyout, I guess my real question is, how did you come up with the 6.1
Okay,
million
so that's a
to buy
good
them
question.
out?
That's a good question. And I didn't come up with it. This
No, I
is
know
the,
you didn't.
yeah, this is the council and the city. So we're looking at it. If you go to the bookmarked agenda, because this agenda right here, that's the summary. The bookmark agenda shows the breakdown.
Yeah.
So what the 6 million you've got, the furniture and equipment, they are due funds from admission revenue that was in the trust that they earned, but they weren't paid because of what was going on, but they've earned that. That's a portion of that. A portion of their management fee that hadn't been paid.
But I mean, if there's 14 years left on the contract, and they were promised 150 grand a year for the remaining 14 years.
Well, that's a year, so none of
What
that
I'm
is
just saying
included
is-
in
What
that.
I'm just saying is that whatever the buyout is, and I know you can hardly get it on the list, but somebody came up with a number
Yeah,
that they hardly accept the fact that they're willing to leave and
Absolutely.
still make a profit. And I know you don't make the
Yes.
decision. The auditors, the
Yep.
headlight, rear view
Yep.
mirror type of thing, so.
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just-
Yeah, absolutely. And so those are the questions. There's an ordinance, and I'm sure some of the council members as well as the public is going to ask exactly.
They won't ask.
Yeah.
Because when I saw this, the first thing I asked is how much and what makes up that amount.
And do they have somebody to take their place if they vote to buy them out?
They are going to go back out on an RFP, so they're going to have somebody temporarily run it.
No, probably this CVB,
Yeah, probably the CB.
right? Is there a formula to determine the cost each tax-paying citizen of Virginia Beach for each of these private, public events or constructions?
I mean, you could come up with a per
I guess you
capita
could.
cost if you wanted to.
And why not let the sports center go bankrupt? That way somebody with better business can run it. How,
We have a question.
yes, the bond on the convention center, is that satisfied or when is that up? When is that paid up?
The bond is, there's still debt service on it. I would have to pull that. I don't have that in front of me, but.
Oh, okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
thought it
there's
was
still
like
debt-
pretty soon, in the
Yeah,
next
there's
couple
still
of years
debt.
or
I mean,
something.
It's been out there. It's probably getting close to its.
Okay, so the person wants to know, the Atlantic Park, who is going to watch the numbers? When will the taxpayers see the first payment from their investment? When are we gonna get a return on investment on that one?
So I'm only gonna speak to our,
You haven't done anything.
I'm only speak to our role. We have in fact, we started looking at it last year because even though they just put dirt, shoveled the dirt this year, they've already started incurring, obviously, your engineering, your utility, your surveying, architectural. Those are already accumulating. So from our perspective, we started reviewing it because we want to make sure from the get-go, they've got good process to account for the expenses, the city's portion. Okay, so that's going to be on our annual audit plan. So from our perspective, every year, because it's one of the city's biggest projects, so we would be remiss to not have that on our audit schedule to look at.
Diane,
So
can
we're
I-
looking at it every year, just like we are looking at these other facilities. And we'll look at it
Can I ask
every
a
year
question?
until it's,
Yeah, let him finish.
so.
Okay, so there's only one question here left. Can I ask that, and then you can ask your question?
No, you're in charge.
As a CPA, what would you say to a business owner who mismanages money the way the city of Virginia Beach has? Why is the city taking away parking spaces to build a wave park next to the ocean?
Okay, from my perspective, as the city auditor, my role is, right, to bring transparency. Okay, I am not part of the city's communication department, I'm not their PR, you guys know me, right? I'm a
Right,
taxpayer.
you don't make these
I'm a taxpayer, so what I try to do is be as transparent with the audits. You know, sometimes they don't like them, sometimes they don't like what I have to say, but my role to bring accountability and transparency to city operations, as long as I am and my office is fulfilling that role, good, bad, or ugly, we bring it out, right? We can look ourselves in the mirror and say, we're being